The following program is presented by JohnGaltFLA.com and Just Measures Radio. The opinions of the host do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the owners of the Just Measures Radio Network or its sponsors. The financial information contained in this program is for educational and informational purposes only. If you wish to use this information for investment purposes, it is advisable that you seek the help of professional financial consultants. JohnGaltFLA.com, Just Measures Radio Network, nor its sponsors can be held liable for losses incurred by using the information for your own personal investing decisions. Today is Wednesday, August 31st, 2011. This is John Galt speaking, and you're tuned in live to the Just Measures Radio Network and the Voice of Galt. There'll be no cute sound effects. There'll be no cute intro songs other than the traditional financial report when I feel like getting to it. A series of news stories and events occurred in the last 72 hours that have been building up tension and steam to the point where I've had a tension headache and very little sleep for probably, I'd say, going on 80 hours. I got to get it off my chest. I have to let loose. I feel that in my audience. I hear that in my audience. And you may let loose also. Later on in the program when I say so. I will not open the phone lines up. The phones are shut down at the moment. You can call all you want. You're going to get a voicemail. Period. End of conversation. I am a man of many words, as you have been listening over the years. I have said a lot of things that might sound insane to some people. A lot of things that might sound offensive to others. That's fine. That's part of live radio. That's part of accepting your responsibility as a host and attempting to entertain and inform your audience every night. Tonight, I'm going to take a different tact. A different approach to this. A different methodology. August of this year is the termination of one of the most turbulent months that we have seen in American history. We allegedly won an illegal war. We allegedly solved our debt crisis. We've allegedly handled the worst hurricane of historic proportions in history. Yet here we are now with the most prescient question that I have to ask. Are you happier now than you were when the intern molester-in-chief was President of the United States? My answer is no. In summary, based on personal observation for most, as a large group known as the American people, you, everyone, by and large, are poorer. Odds are you've changed or lost your college, military, or trade school education-based profession. You're no longer in the career you thought you were going to hold until retirement. You're no longer able to sit there and support your family. You're no longer thinking, wow, I'm so far ahead in life, I can't possibly say anything, but the future is so bright, I have to wear shades. Thank you, NAFTA. Thank you, Federal Reserve. Thank you, political elites from both parties. Thank you very much you scumbags from the Ivy League elites. You know, you go back to things and you witness them in your life. Thousands of people between the age of 40 and 55 still have their parents alive. And you're watching your parents go back to work, present company included. Because scumbags, dirtbags, low-life Ponzi scheme companies like Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup, Lehman Brothers, or Bear Stearns were legally allowed to bend, break, sodomize 70, 80, and 90-year-old plus quote-unquote investors over the fast food counter where they're now employed. And our government just sat there and smiled and said, "Can you supersize that, Grandma, while you're taking that, please? I know it hurts, but I'd like some extra fries, and I didn't want a pickle on my hamburger." Yet every day you're encouraged, bombarded, begged and implored to watch lying jerks, pieces of garbage like Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, and of course the ever infamous Kudlow and Kramer, to quote-unquote learn how to invest like a multi-millionaire or billionaire. This is the equivalent, in my opinion, of buying books on raising a child from NAMBLA. Of course, you, the sheeple, the little people, the people too stupid to run your life, are supposed to have the quote-unquote long-term attitude. You're supposed to have the, "Oh, it's so sweet. Markets go up, markets go down" belief that that's how investing is supposed to go. And why is my butt so sore every time after I leave my broker's office? Oh, because markets go up and markets go down. Nothing illegal could possibly have happened there. Of course, when you start looking at it from a longer term perspective, you begin to think, well, just one moment. These guys wouldn't lie, cheat, and steal to take my money, would they?
Welcome to Wall Street Confidential. I'm Aaron Task, joined again by Jim Kramer. Jim, welcome.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being here. So our economic data today, but I want to talk about something else first. Again, today we have the misdirection from the futures. The futures pointing up market, and as of right now, it's actually down again. Is this just because it's the holiday period that we're seeing this?
You know, a lot of times when I was short at my hedge fund, and I was positioned short, meaning I needed it down, I would create a level of activity beforehand that could drive the futures. It doesn't take much money. Similarly, if I were long and I would want to make things a little bit rosy, I would go in and take a bunch of stocks and make sure that they're higher, and maybe commit $5 million in capital to do it, and I could affect it. What you're seeing now is it probably is bigger market. Now maybe you need $10 million in capital to knock this stuff down, but it's a fun game and it's a lucrative game, and you can move it up and then fade it. That's often creates a very negative feel. So let's say you take a longer term view intraday, and you say, listen, I'm going to boost the futures, and then when the real sellers come in, real market comes in, they're going to knock it down. It's going to create a negative view. That's a strategy very worth doing when you're valued on a day-to-day basis. And I would encourage anyone who's in the hedge fund to do it because it's legal,
right,
and it is a very quick way to make money and very satisfying.
Okay.
By the way, no one else in the world would ever admit that, but I don't care.
That's right.
Yeah, you did that in 2006 and successfully learned the tactic of erasing yourself from the internet, including getting Jon Stewart from The Daily Show to erase it from his archives on television so you wouldn't be further embarrassed. Jim Kramer and the rest of your type. You. Then we have the 80-something-year-old Marxist in drag from Omaha. You know, the Obama-supporting pervert from Omaha, Nebraska, who always smiles because before he comes on the air, he allegedly has been banging one of the CNBC hotties and has his own private G5 Mile High Club of anyone who wants to interview him. So when you see someone like Kramer interview him, you have to think, that's disgusting. Yet when he takes great companies and seizes them, like Dairy Queen, and runs them into the ground, and then sells them at almost nothing after pillaging and destroying the jobs and destroying the corporation and ruining the quality, he's called a genius. And he calls the buyers of the new company suckers in private because his imperial ass couldn't turn around. So if he can't do it, no one else could possibly do so. And if he buys a company and something bad happens, it's always someone else's fault. It's never, ever the pervert from Omaha, the freak. Then he decides on the political flavor of the day. In 2008, his fortune could be lost, so he chose vanilla as the flavor of the day, aka the quasi-socialist, also known as Hank Paulson and George W. Bush. Oh, Mr. Paulson, Mr. Bush, you had best sit there and give me some TARP funds via the banks I'm invested in, or I will not bail out one of the Federal Reserve banksters, and I will sit there and contribute to the collapse of the system. Make me a player or else. So when he saw an opportunity for a huge profit, guaranteed by the taxpayers, not guaranteed on capitalist principles, no, only guaranteed that if things go bad, we pay them. He said, send me some more fresh meat to make money, and I'll make it happen. So what did he do after those two gave him millions upon billions of dollars to bail himself out? He chose the chocolate flavor of the day, got tired of vanilla, and threw his money behind Obama, knowing damned well he could get away with murder. So he stands out and he preaches and he screams and he says, the rich people aren't paying enough taxes. The rich people aren't doing their fair share. The rich people are penalizing this country, owing well over $1 billion when he made that statement for taxes due as far back as 2002. Yet if you or I were to attempt to do that, you'll get a phone call and a visit. I can promise you that. You get a few nasty certified letters first, then you get the hammer on the door. You don't pay your taxes? You get threatened with jail. He doesn't pay his taxes. He gives $1 million to his brother in arms in Washington, D.C. and says, get that little midget off my back. I'll pay him when I'm ready to, and how much I want to. Or my lawyers will tie you up in court until I'm dead. Yeah, there's your system of justice and fairness for you. There's your system of equal justice under the rule of law based on the Constitution of the United States. Yet because he is worshipped by the stupid people because, quote unquote, well, he's filthy rich. He did it the hard way. He worked his way up. We're supposed to follow him. Based on that principle, we should be out burning down villages and raping and pillaging, sort of like the Huns or the Mongols did in ancient times, because he essentially did that under the guise of modern capitalism. Because cheating to get ahead is acceptable, allegedly. Not paying your taxes is okay if you can get away with it, allegedly. Destroying livelihoods of small towns and franchisees and individuals who work their ass off to create small companies is okay because it's sport, it's game. even if you lose money doing it, to say, I crushed Joe because I'm better than he is, hey, that's great. If it was capitalism, I'd say go for it. But using the power of the gun, aka the government, and sodomizing the elderly's retirement accounts, and destroying the banking system to achieve these goals, I think that's pretty scummy. And I might give the Communist Party a little bit more respect, because at least they honestly come out and tell you what they're going to do to you and your parents. So according to the Buffett way, sodomization of the stupid people is an acceptable methodology, an accepted way to achieve freedom, profit, and liberty for himself. But the hell with the old fart from Omaha. Satan will give him a special seat next to Saddam Hussein family for his Career Achievement Award, with Hitler presenting, as Berkshire Hathaway burned more Jews than Himmler could have ever imagined or fantasized about. But I digress. I think the old American system is great. You work your butt off for 40 years at the same company. You serve our nation 10, 20, 30 years in the military. Sometimes even 40 years wearing a uniform. Yet you sit there and you retire, and you're expected that the obligations that are presented to you are going to be fulfilled. Then, of course, the Wall Street crowd, the two political parties, and the Planet of the Apes at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue have decided you worked, but not hard enough for me. So we're going to steal half your retirement so we can ensure some female dog from freaking El Salvador can come into this country illegally, drop a few anchor babies via Laredo, Texas, and raise him or her to kill a loyal rancher or to take over the territory. Because, after all, they made it here. You can't object to their trespassing. We have to take care of these newfound Americans. Then you have the crying game in Washington, D.C. running the House. Rick N.W.O. Perry and the Republican National Committee saying, our Kool-Aid tastes better. Obama Mussolini is now saying, drink it or we'll waste. We will destroy. We will slaughter your by re-educating you in the back of the head. Most Americans, facing the prospect of hard choices in life, just cry out, give me more damn Kool-Aid. Sadly, those that oppose the new system, which is a repeat of the 1893, 1899, 1904, 1919, and 1934 American system of progressivism, Marxism, and elitism, of loons, liars, are called loons, liars, and unpatriotic, just as they were in those eras. You opposed the Wisconsin Plan under Governor La Follette in the 1890s. You were anti-American. You hated your fellow man. You opposed Theodore Roosevelt. You were anti-American. You hated your neighbor. You hated children. You hated the ideas of Wilson. You were thrown into a concentration camp until he got out of the presidency because you obviously wanted America to lose the war. And if you opposed anything that FDR did, well, if you didn't have that sticker in your window, they would just take your business, your private property, and throw you in jail and make you fight your way out through a morass of legal complications. Sort of like what they're doing now, where seizures are at the highest level without due process or cause than ever in American history. Higher than all seizures combined the Japanese internees of World War II in $1 total. That's right. Illegal seizures from Americans not charged with a crime is so far in excess of anything we've seen in our history, it exceeds the private property, including land and businesses, seized from the Japanese-American internees of World War II. Yet we're not at war. There's no declaration. And if you object to that, you're unpatriotic. Because, well, they had to be affiliated with a crime. There's no reason we would seize their property, is what the government will tell you. And the Patriot Act gives us that right to do so. And the IRS legal process gives us the right to do so. And the federal enforcement of the Treasury Department and those arms of our protective services under Homeland Security tell us we must do these things because it's for your own good. Because it's for the greater good of the American people. Yet the sheep continue to chew their grass and demand, where's my government cud? If opposing those who despise freedom and the U.S. Constitution makes me unpatriotic, then I'm the most damned unpatriotic son of a bitch to walk this earth. And proud to say that. But let's lay off of Washington, D.C., the city of Tampax, formerly known as our nation's capital. Or even a state capital near you. We could go on to Wisconsin and California, the state of New Jersey or Vermont, Florida or Georgia or anywhere else in the Union. There's no difference between the two political parties in their regression and oppression of freedom. After all, they're under the spell of the ideal of crony capitalism, known as the Communist Chinese fascism, where the rule of law is determined by drunken fools and evil old men who fool you, the American citizen, because they think you're too stupid, too uneducated, and too ignorant to understand such grand issues as robbing grandmother's retirement funds, the inflation taxation without representation, and the need to destroy individuals who believe in ideas adverse to their profitability and power. Oh no, we can move beyond that. And after this commercial timeout, I shall do so, because I'm not through. I'm just now letting my blood pressure build up to the boiling point. And when you hear the next half hour, you will get off your ass and act, or you will tune out. I don't give a damned either way. But we're going to draw a line, and we're going to draw a line tonight. Those who are men of honor and women of honor will follow, will lead, and will stop this nonsense. Those who are cowards and craven fools will do what they do best. They will hide behind the skirts of history, saying, yeah, there's the Jew over there, or there's the Christian hiding behind the church in the streets of Moscow, or there's the true capitalist daring to want to keep, daring to want to work, and perceive and protect his own profits. More right after this. Welcome back to the second half hour of the Voice of Galt. Once again, this is not an issue or a subject hour of fun game sound effects or happy joy bullcrap tonight. I've got some things to get off my chest as we enter probably the most turbulent month in our history. And I want my audience to hear it and to understand what we're up against. It's time to move on to the idiots proclaimed by talk radio, Fox News, and other non-Buffett related lips affixed to the RNCs, that be Republican National Committees, but loyalists who are daring to instruct, mind you, not advise, but demand and instruct that you support the socialist-like candidate of the day and ignore the only constitutionalist on the ballot. Today the media is screaming, anyone but Obama. 3 years ago, the media was screaming, anyone but Bush. 11 years ago, it was anyone but the Constitution. How's that worked out for you so far? In this past decade, we've seen the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, and 10th Amendments of the Bill of Rights all but ejected, all but ignored, all but basically made irrelevant. Screaming alleged boozers like our Speaker of the House and the psycho San Francisco whore Nancy, give me my slave labor for my tuna plants in the South Pacific, Pelosi, looks at the Tea Partiers and constitutionalists like they should be put into boxcars, shipped to camps, and then disappeared. The last 4 presidents view the American people and our military as a means to the ends for preserving the way of life for their power base, for the banksters and their ill-gotten gains. Public service, for the majority of them, is no longer an obligation or a duty, but a profit motive. Oh, I'm only going to make $160,000 a year while I'm here, but I can turn that into a $3 million a year job or profit after I leave. Yet the sheeple, the masses, are more worried about network television shows and Hollywood whores, what they're up to, who they're sleeping with, and what will happen to the cast of American Idol this year. Of course, some big-hooted slut who did some online porno is much more important than a 6-year-old child eating canned ravioli in the rain under a torn tarp in the woods of suburbia, just so a bankster could keep at least 2 of their private jets and only have to give up 1, right? You and I are being played like fools. You think the folks on Clear Channel, the talk hosts, are on your side? Really? Are you that stupid? Are you that foolish? Do dogs crap on your shoes and you blame it on global warming? Which candidates do they support? Ding! The light bulb might just go off in your head. There's the, oh crap, Beck, Levine, Savage, Limbaugh, everyone else all support the same idiots who created this mess in the first place, who have made a profit on your backs, your ignorance, your unwillingness to gamble on freedom. So the candidate they support lied as governor. No big deal, so what? They lied to us as Congress critters. Well, that's what everybody does. So they lied to us as parents, fathers, mothers, or as lawyers. Who cares? So what? They're not Obama. And so long as they're not Obama, we have to support them. They can molest 1,000 nuns and shoot dogs in the back of the head like Michael Vick. And as long as they're not Obama, we've got to support them. They're okie dokie in the eyes of the alleged right-wing media, and some members touting themselves as the new alternative media, because they're not Obama. Neither was George H.W. Bush, William Jefferson Clinton, or George W. Bush. And America went to crap under their regimes also. The strategy of these charlatans who are running our quote-unquote new alternative media, the so-called evolutionary talk show, well, you attack the number 3 ranked candidate by saying he's not there. He's number 3 in the polls. Number 2 and 1 in some polls. What? You diminish them. You downgrade them. You dilute them. You dog the man. Is he perfect? No. Is he a saint? No. You call him an airhead. You call him a liar. You call him a scoundrel. Yet the neo-globalists and the quasi-socialists, they're okay. They're fine. Because they're not Obama. Because they're not Ron Paul. If you think I agree with Dr. Paul on all of the issues 100% of the time, you're incorrect. Hell no. Do I think of him better as a politician than the rest of these clowns? Hell no. He has numerous shortcomings. Do I think he's a better man? Repeat, a better man because of his beliefs in our Constitution? Hell yeah. Will it matter? No. Ask Prime Minister Luigi Facta. He was the Prime Minister in 1922, along with some industrialists, some capitalists. who were trying to tell the king that Mussolini's fascists were danger when they marched on Rome. But America is far, far more gone than Italy on October 23rd, 1922. Yet the sheep will bitch more about the batteries in their remote dying or their favorite reality TV show being canceled. Who cares about paying for your house? Obama will take care of that for you. Or he'll have you and I take care of it for them, is more accurate. Freedom requires thought. Freedom requires responsibility. It requires action. It requires logic. It requires faith. Understanding that is too much work. Yet here we are now, moving forward, thinking that we're going to have a different alternative. That someone who's going to be unique from the banksters. That life is about to change because a talk show host is starting his own network. And another talk show host is angry with the candidates. And another candidate says it's God's fault that a hurricane hit the east coast of the United States. I'm depressed, I'm angry, and I'm fed up. I'm sick and tired of these damned lying dirtbags saying, well, he's a man and he's the best alternative to what we have. Really? Out of 360 million legal American citizens, of which 20 million plus would probably qualify to be president, we can't find one damn person who isn't an airhead, who doesn't cheat on their wives, who doesn't believe that raping seniors is an acceptable way to sit there and balance the budget, who doesn't believe that we have to have a welfare state for all is a justifiable way to sit there and manage a country, who doesn't believe that the Federal Reserve is a sound, logical way to sit there and maintain a system. Yes, Herman Cain, I'm talking about you. You're a scumbag like the rest of them. Yes, you think, well, wait a minute. We can't get rid of the Federal Reserve. That's too drastic. If we get rid of the Federal Reserve, we would have drastic things happening. We would have the end of our economic system. Guess what? We've had the end of our economic system over 24 times in our history. Once by a civil war, once by an invasion from the British. And you know what? We're still here. So I think if we got rid of the Federal Reserve, went into an economic depression and came out with a sound currency, we would probably survive. Oh, but wait a minute. That would require people making sacrifices for themselves, getting off their ass and learning how to become self-sustaining, to sustain their own lives. To actually do things and not just go to the doctor for an aspirin because I have a little card from the government that says that I can. To not just sit there and beg you to take care of them. You know, in the old days, your parents, when they got too old to take care of themselves, moved back in with their kids. And the kids accepted that as the normal flow of life. That's the majority. And it was really viewed as the Christian thing to do. Now, Lord forbid, some 40 or 50 or baby boom or something have their parents moved in with them. That might interrupt their free lifestyle, their lifestyle alternatives. No, it's society's problem. It's society's issue. They got old. They did their work. It's the rest of the country's duty to take care of my blood, my family. It is America's perception, America's belief that we're no longer responsible for our fellow man. To that point, they're correct. You're responsible for your own flesh and blood. I have the name John Galt for a reason. I don't ask for you to take care of me. Support the network? Yeah. If you like the product, buy stuff from our advertisers. If you want to send money to the station, hell yeah. We're going to sit there and say, hell yeah. We've got a mission to educate people, to get the word out, to tell people that there's a problem with this country and very little time to solve it. Yet here we are, back to square one again. Starting tomorrow on September 1st, we have a long weekend coming up. People are going, well, look at the stock market. It's above where it started the year. Who gives a crap? Totally irrelevant. It's also at the same levels that it was in 1998 and 1999. BFD. Put an H in there for Harry, too, if you want to. You're about to see food shortages hit our shelves for the first time in decades. You're about to see the poor in greater numbers than ever before standing outside your church parking lot looking for that handout, looking for the food lines for the food banks. I'll be willing to wager that half of you people have never driven by a parking lot late at night to see the engines running in the cars. Those are the rich poor people. They're able to keep the air conditioning on for the children. The poor people have the windows down and have to deal with mosquitoes, or have taped some screening up around their windows in their cars and have the doors locked with one parent awake to make sure someone doesn't try to steal from them or rob them in the middle of the night. Those are the new homeless that you don't hear under this administration, because it's bad form to report propaganda. That's called propaganda, by the way. Facts about the new reality of the American citizen. Because you can't say those kind of things because you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're just trying to make the regime look bad. But when George Bush was in office, the only homeless problems that were demonstrated were those created by the Marxists. March down the street, making parades and putting up big displays. And you had a TV camera every day in 2008 zooming in on the family under the tarps. Here we are in 2011, and those poor bastards are out there in the rain and the humidity and the heat, some of them going on year 3, and you would have to dig with a mighty large shovel to find a mention of the homeless problems in your own hometown. But of course, it's Bush's fault. It's not your fault. It's not Obama's fault. It's not Bank of America's fault. It's Bush's fault. Bush sent Cheney out with a shotgun and threw these people out of their home and told them they had to go live under a blue tarp in the woods. You're not going to hear about that in this media. You're not going to accept this new reality because we can't sit there and talk about these kind of things. We can't discuss them in this regime because if we do that, we make people look bad, like your local congressman, like your local senator, like your mayor. It's more important to discuss the beautification projects. You know, like in our community, we got to put roundabouts with trees in there. Or we've got to sit there and put flowers on the side of the road, or spend $12,000 on very expensive camera corners where we have cameras watching everyone to make sure we don't do something illegal, but have no cameras on the people who are just trying to survive. Yes, Lord forbid our cities take the tax dollars and actually take care of those people. Lord forbid we take responsibility for voting for the same pieces of crap year after year after year. You want to know why we have a problem? You just figured it out, folks. We keep voting for the same steaming piles of every damned year. And then we wonder why the results don't change. Tonight's show is a beginning. You have religious leaders who won't go on television and speak out against the regime for fear of losing their tax-exempt status. Those that have are being audited by the IRS. Don't believe me? Go ask the people who've been going on this trip with Glenn Beck. Any religious figure which speaks out publicly on any kind of mass media against the regime is attacked, either by the labor unions, by his fellow clergy, national associations, church headquarters, dioceses, or the IRS, or state revenue collection offices. It takes a big pair of brass ones to stand up to this new regime. And it would appear that the Word of God is not as important as the word of self-preservation. You can separate the true religious leaders from the chaff, from the garbage, by their willingness to take a stand based on principles of the Word of God, be it that of Judaism or Christianity. In the States, you see the same thing. You see men and women who take a stand and then are destroyed with falsehoods, in many cases, created stories, attacks on their character, the diminution of their ability to run for office again with their own political parties taking them down. But why is that important? Well, they dared to speak out. They dared to take a stand. They didn't play ball. The banksters are holding all the cards. If a community or a group of homeowners or someone says, that's not fair that you're giving the neighbors down the street that deal, why are you willing to refinance them and give them a better deal than the deal you're giving us? They say, well, it's the law from the federal government. You have to go deal with it. Yet they're reporting record profits for almost 10 quarters now, and no one cares. They engage in illegal foreclosures. I cannot name a single arrest of a bank branch manager, regional director, regional vice president, regional executive vice president, regional president, state or nationwide chief operating officer, or CEO, or corporate executive vice president, since the mortgage fraud has begun. Angelo Mazzillo is sitting in Switzerland right now, tanning his orange butt on your dollars, while the American people are preparing to come up with $34 billion initial estimate to bail out Bank of America, which doesn't need the capital, according to its current CEO. We still own a large chunk of Citigroup, AIG, GE. We're losing our investment in General Motors with each day of stock trading. We're supposed to sit there and accept this because, hey, we're helping our fellow man out. Look at all the jobs that would have been lost if those companies had failed. My God, Toyota could have owned Cadillac. That would have been horrible. A well-managed company taking over a poorly managed company. The horrors of it all. Capitalism actually working. The rule of law being enforced. Yet that damn pesky Fourth Amendment thing, the current regime said we can erase that, and they did. And what are we paying for that now? We're paying for it because if the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to bond owners, because, people who own bonds, they're rich. The Fourth Amendment doesn't matter. Well, everyone said, if that was a big corporation, the Fourth Amendment didn't matter. Bondholders can accept that because if they owned bonds for General Motors, if they owned bonds from Chrysler or General Motors, they can afford to lose the money. They can afford to sit there and suck it up and eat this. Because a bondholder has to be rich. Even though the average bondholder for these corporations was probably 82 years old, has bought the bond 30 years ago, has been rolling it over and sitting on it and living on the interest during their retirement. Because 4% is better than the 0.1% the savings account pays. And so when you took it from her, all the people said, yay, we saved the union jobs. The Chevrolet workers, the General Motors workers, they all got their jobs still. Who cares about the Fourth Amendment? And then comes TSA and illegal road checks, checkpoints on your highways, and in total illegal seizures of your personal property by the federal government and intrusions into your personal life. And right now, as we sit here on the air, illegal infringements on your Fourth Amendment as the NSA surfs your computer while you're listening to me and chatting in the chat room or downloading the archive. Yeah, that Fourth Amendment's not important. But all of the things I just outlined are a subsequent result of the Fourth Amendment being ignored and discarded by you and me because we voted for the same a-holes. Get used to it, boys and girls. We sit there and give up the Fourth and the First and the Second and the Fifth and the 10th Amendments, and suddenly we realize we live in the same nation we used to mock and decry during the Soviet Union era. We used to make fun of communist China in the 1980s. They were a backwards, foolish, poor people, barely able to survive, barely able to get by without help. They needed the Soviet Union but didn't want to deal with them, so they let their people starve before they would sit there and say, help us modernize, help us seek stronger, more independent communist manners. Well, we did. We said, we don't care about your method of government, we envy it. And we sent our corporate experts overseas to export our jobs, to export our freedoms, to export our fortunes. Today we pay the price for this. I close this rant out with one thing and one thing only. In the next 30 days, you will see the United States of America change so drastically that you will not recognize it come this Christmas. When Christmas of 2011 rolls around, it will be the last holiday of its sort that you recognize. To many, Ramadan will be a greater celebration, as will Labor Day and May Day. You will not understand what happened to your nation at Thanksgiving if you're allowed to celebrate it. You will not understand where your freedoms went. You will not grasp what has happened to your people, to your neighbors, because they are willing to accept slavery for security. After the next 30 days, you will not recognize your country. I give you this one time, this one speech, to help you prepare to recognize that on September 30th, 2011, it will be a totally different nation than it was today. 30 days from now, America goes lights out. Watch and see. We'll be right back.